And welcome back, rugby fans, to Rugby411. As always, I'm your host. My name is Joshua Shibata, and this is a video I've been looking forward to making for a very, very long time. As you all know, I first fell in love with rugby through Rugby Sevens, which, if you don't know, is kind of a smaller version of rugby. I always call it rugby for people with ADHD. It's less people on the field, only 7 aside compared to the regular 15, yet it's still the same size rugby field. Also, the game is much, much shorter, 2 7-minute halves compared to 2 40-minute halves. The games end like that. Fast paced, lots of scoring, lots of fun, and it's what got me into rugby, what made me fall in love with it in the first place. And this event that's coming up was one of the first events that I've ever seen on TV, and again introduced me to the sport of rugby. And it's just I've been following it now for over 5 years, and I've just loved it. Again, loved it ever since. And so I'm always happy when the HSBC World Rugby Sevens tournament comes to town into LA. This is technically the third time that it's come to LA. There was one year, unfortunately, with COVID being involved, that they had a very truncated version of it. But this is technically the third event in Los Angeles after moving from Las Vegas. Going over real quick and then going to backtrack it again. I'm very excited about this event, so there's a lot of things to talk about. It's funny, the prior video, if you see it, is much shorter, dealing with the women's 15s UK tour. This is going to be a little bit longer because there's a lot to talk about. And again, I love Rugby 7, so it's going to be so much fun. So this is a 2-day event. So Saturday, this weekend, Saturday, August 27th and Sunday, August 28th. It's going to be a whole lot of Rugby 7's action. Saturday, August 27th, kickoff time of the very first game is 9:20 a.m. Yes, a.m. Pacific Standard Time, very early in the morning for us on the West Coast. Sunday, August 28th is even earlier, 8:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. All these games are going to occur at the Dignity Health Sports Park, which is located in Carson, California. And if you can't get there live, tickets are still available. You can watch it all live on the Peacock Network, and it is going to be a lot of rugby action. Now, again, as I mentioned before, Rugby Sevens is a much shorter game. So because the game, your average Rugby Sevens game only takes about 20 minutes, you're going to have a whole mess of games. I mean, each day is going to last about 10 hours, 8 to 10 hours. I'm kid you not, 10 to 8 hours of just non-stop rugby. The HSBC World Rugby 7 series is a series that started in 1999, and it's an international competition. That's what's great about this. This is an international competition featuring teams, 16 of them for this event, from all over the world competing in LA. You're going to see the best of the best throw down in this HSBC World 7 series. You're going to see teams from England, from Japan, New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Kenya, Spain, France, Argentina. I mean, the list goes on. We'll go over almost all the teams. Ireland, we'll go over almost all the teams that are involved in it. And so again, if you have the chance to get tickets, there's still a few tickets available for both days. I have mine. I'm going to be front row center. It is a fun event. Not only is there a lot of rugby, there's a lot of rugby going on inside the stadium, but it's a huge festival as well. You have people coming in, and security is very lax, so just be careful. Security is very lax. People are going to come in dressed in costumes. People are from all over the world flying into this, so you'll see fans that are rooting for Kenya, rooting for Samoa, rooting for Argentina, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, all walks of life, and they're all there just having fun. And like I joke with people, and there's a little bit of rugby to watch as well. It's a long day, a lot of fun. There's definitely going to be a lot of drinking going on as well. But it's so much fun. I highly recommend, if you get a chance. The HSBC World Rugby 7 series is a series of events that take place all over the world each year. Usually the series involves 10 different events, and they take place, again, all over the world. You'll have events in England, you'll have events in Dubai, South Africa. It comes around to America once a year. Like I said before, it usually would happen in Las Vegas. It's moved recently to Los Angeles, thank God. And again, if you have the opportunity to go to HSBC World Rugby Seven's event that happens to be in your area, if you're not from the United States, highly recommend it. Again, it's so much fun. Hong Kong, they have a Hong Kong event that's part of this, and the Hong Kong event is world famous for just being the most fun time in all of sports. So again, not only do you get to see some great rugby action, get to watch some of the best compete against each other, it's so much fun. It's a fun atmosphere. And also, too, not only is there the professional event going on, there's an invitational series that's occurring outside of the stadium, I believe in either smaller fields around the Dignity Health Sports Park or in the parking lot between Club Sevens teams that are competing for tournaments, for championships of their own. So there's so much to see, so much to do. And again, it is so much fun. I can't stress how much fun. If you get a chance to attend any of the HSBC World Rugby Sevens events, if they come into your town, they go to Dubai, they go to Toulouse, France, they go to England, UK, they're in South Africa, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Australia, I highly recommend you check it out. It's so much fun. Spain, so much fun. So again, there is stuff to play for in this. There's usually 10 events in a calendar year for the HSBC World 7 Series. Every event, all 16 teams compete against each other, and whoever wins the most games, gets the most points, wins that event. Whoever wins the most events ends up being crowned the champions of that year's tournament. So this year, because of COVID, it's actually been a very, very crazy year. A lot of weird variables that floated around. A lot of teams were not able to play all events. Originally, there were supposed to be 10 events. One of them got completely canceled. This Los Angeles event actually was supposed to occur back in March. And because of COVID, how bad it was, they decided, and I'm very happy for it, to move it all the way to the last event in August. So again, lots of things have gone down. New Zealand and Samoan team weren't able to participate in the first 4 events of the year because of COVID. Fiji missed 2 events as well. So many things kind of made this a very weird year in competition. But it's actually set up for some very interesting storylines for the championship run of this tournament. Again, this is the last event, so there is still the overall tournament winners to be crowned. Not only is the Los Angeles event itself a tournament, but the overall year of tournaments, all 9 events, still there needs to be a champion crowned overall by the accumulation of points. And I'll put up actually what the rankings are of everybody. As you see, those are the top rankings. Right now, USA is in 6th place, and unfortunately with USA being in 6th place, and I'll go into a little bit more detail about Team America, they are out of the running for it. But as you see with the top 4 teams, South Africa, Australia, Fiji, and Argentina, all 4 of them still have a chance to possibly win this whole entire tournament for 2022. Not necessarily this event. It doesn't matter if they win this event for some of them. But depending on how they finish, they can win the entire 2022 series for HSBC World Rugby Sevens. And I'll go over those scenarios real quick for those of you who are fans who want to know. And again, if you're interested, you'll know as you watch what is on the line, and it makes things a lot more interesting. So, starting with South Africa. South Africa started off strong in this series. They won the first 4 events. After that, though, with the introduction of New Zealand and Fiji, and Samoa, like I said, because they missed a couple events due to COVID, South Africa has struggled quite a bit. But because they finished strong in the first 4 events, all they have to do is make it to the finals of the Los Angeles event. They don't have to win it, and they are the HSBC 2022 tournament winners. Australia can win the whole entire tournament if they win the tournament, first of all, and they also need South Africa to finish 4th or lower. The reason is if South Africa finishes 3rd or higher, and I'll bring this up, then they'll end up being tied, and then it depends on point differential, how many points they scored against their opponents, and that will all have to be determined in the LA event. So Australia has a good chance of winning it. Fiji has a good chance of winning the tournament if they win the tournament, and again, they have some things that the other teams need to do. South Africa needs to finish 7th or lower, and Australia needs to finish 5th or lower. If South Africa or Australia finish higher than 7th or 5th, respectively, then even though Fiji wins the tournament, they don't win the entire series. It's either going to be South Africa or Australia. And then you have, last but not least, Argentina. They can win if they win the entire tournament. And again, South Africa has to miss the quarterfinals, and Australia has to miss the semifinals. So really, the favor is in South Africa because they have the least amount of things that need to fall into their favor. But as I'll go into a little further into details of the teams, South Africa has struggled quite a bit since, like I said, winning the first 4 tournaments. So it's not going to be an easy task for them. So now, like I mentioned before, 16 teams from all over the world, broken up into 4 different pools. And on day number 1, this Saturday, what happens is each team in each pool plays against each other. And then depending on the winning records, who got the most points, day 2, all the teams are broken up into the winning quarterfinals and the losing quarterfinals. And then they play knockout rugby to see who ends up winning the entire tournament. And again, depending on how the 4 teams that I mentioned before finish, that determines who wins the entire series. So let's go over the pools real quick. Pool number A, or letter A, you have Australia, Argentina, Spain, and then of course my sentimental favorite, Team Japan. We'll go over things with each team briefly. Australia, as I mentioned before, they are in the running to possibly win the entire series. They've only won 1 in their entire run in HSBC rugby history. They have a great, strong team. Some of the people to watch out for on Australia is, of course, Billy Meeks, who is a LA Guillotine. He's a really, really cool guy. He will be playing for Team Australia. You have Diedrich Roach, who Diedrich Roach, who is one of the impact players of the year, meaning DHL delivery service, who sponsors the HSBC Rugby Series, kind of analyzes each player and determines how much they impact their teams. And Diedrich Roach right now is one of the top players who, at the end of the series, if he remains that top player, he actually gets an award from DHL. So that's pretty cool. Corey Toole is a great player. Right now, he has the 2nd most tries of the series with 38. And then Henry Hutchinson is a really dynamic player for Australia as well. Argentina, as I mentioned before, they are in the running. They've never won an HSBC series before, so there are a possibility of winning their first. Unfortunately for Argentina right now, though, their star player is Marcus Moneta, who was the Player of the Year last year, voted by the HSBC, and also tied for 2nd for the most tries scored, 38. He unfortunately is injured and will not be participating in the LA event, so that's a huge weapon that Argentina will not have, so don't know how much that will affect them. Also sucks that they are part of a pool that involves Australia. That's one team that they need to not be successful, and that's going to be very tough. Then you have Spain, who have kind of struggled in the series. They're near the bottom of the rankings. But you know, they always love to play the underdog. And speaking of underdogs, you have Japan, another team that's kind of near the bottom. Of course, sentimental favorite for me. Shout out to my man Latenera Soejima, one of my favorite players. That guy has been playing for Team Japan for a very long time. He hates to admit that, but he is an amazing player, an outstanding man. I'm definitely going to be rooting for Latenera and for Team Japan. And again, both Japan and Spain love to play spoilers. They can easily take down Australia or Argentina if Australia and Argentina are not careful. We're going to skip Pool B for right now because that obviously has Team USA. Let's move on to Pool C. Pool C has Fiji, Ireland, France, and Wales. going to be a very, very exciting pool, possibly a pool of death if you look at it. Starting with Fiji. Fiji, who's won 2 HSBC series before. They've also the only team in Rugby Seven's history to have 2 Olympic gold medals. So they are an amazing, amazing, and fun team to watch. If you want some exciting rugby, watch the Fiji team when they play. They have, of course, their greatest player, Jerry Tuwai, nicknamed the Little Magician. He is so amazing and fun to watch. Highly recommend, again, watching Fiji. A team that is also really fun to watch is Ireland. Ireland has come out of nowhere last year to join the HSBC series, and they have been amazing and a lot of fun to watch. Players to watch out for them on that team: Jordan Conroy. This kid is amazing. In just a short amount of time, has become just a fan favorite. So fast, so quick. He also apparently won Ireland's version of Dancing with the Stars, so you'll probably see some dance moves in his victory moves after he scores a try. So watch out for that. His cohort, Terry Kennedy, who is also very impressive. He has the second most points in the series at 235. For the last 9 events, he scored 235 points, second most of any player in this year's series. And then got a shout out to Harry McNulty. Harry McNulty, former Guiltini member himself. Always a nice guy to talk to and a dynamic player. So Team Ireland definitely could play spoiler to Fiji. And then France. France has come on to be a very strong team. One of their players, Nelson Epe, has, I believe he's like 4th most tries scored in the series so far. A phenomenal player. France is definitely a team, even though they're out of the running to win, definitely a team that can win Pool C. And then Wales. Wales, unfortunately, has been struggling quite a bit. They might be the team that gets pushed around in the Pool C. But again, the beauty of HSBC World Rugby 7, no team is necessarily out of the running. There's a lot of teams that love to play spoilers against the bigger teams. We got Pool D. Pool D, we have Samoa, England, Scotland, and Kenya. A lot of fun teams here. Samoa, great team. Ever since they came back from being off from COVID, they have made a lot of noise. I believe placing 3rd in 3 of the events. England is a great team, a very young team. They've lost a lot of their star players. Dan Norton, who still holds to this day the most tries scored in all of HSBC rugby. I'm missing on the number of how many tries Dan Norton has, but he has a lot. Something that will probably never be touched, at least not in the immediate current time. And of course, the announcement that Captain Tom Mitchell, who has been moonlighting as a LA Guiltini and a wonderful guy. If you ever get a chance to talk to Tom Mitchell, highly recommend it. Guy is amazing, fun to talk to. He is returning to Team England for this LA event, so that's definitely going to improve England's stock in this series, because again, they have a lot of young players. To have a guy like Tom Mitchell come back to captain the team is going to be huge for them. Scotland has a great team as well. And then, of course, Kenya is always fun to watch. Every time they win, they always have some sort of dance to celebrate. I highly recommend checking out a guy named Alvin Otenteno, who is nicknamed the Water Buffalo. That guy is built like a brick house but moves like a cheetah. He is just so much fun to watch, and his victory dances are always great. So those are the 3 other pools. Now let's focus on, of course, Pool B, which has Team USA in it. And Pool B is going to be tough. When I say Pool C, maybe it's the pool of death. Pool B, that's going to be a tough pool. We have South Africa, Canada, USA, and New Zealand. And what makes this pool very, very difficult are the New Zealand and South Africa being in it, to be honest. New Zealand still holds the record, and again, will probably not be broken anytime soon, of the most HSBC titles in all of HSBC history. 13 titles. Now, granted, they've won 12 of those titles in the very first 15 years of HSBC. This is the 23rd year that the HSBC event has been going on. New Zealand's won 12 of their 13 in the first 15 years. They've won their last one just recently in the last 7 years. So New Zealand has not necessarily been as dominant as they used to be, but New Zealand is still a very, very strong team. They missed the first 4 events because of COVID. When they came back, they started off pretty strong. They finished in the finals, but then since then they've been really struggling a lot. Again, a lot of teams have had a lot of turnover recently. A lot of fan favorites and veterans have kind of retired or quietly moved away from Sevens. New Zealand is no different. And sadly, for the very first time in New Zealand's history, in Toulouse, just a couple months ago, New Zealand missed the quarterfinals of the HSBC 7 series for the very first time in the history. In the 23 years of HSBC 7's competition, New Zealand has never missed the top 8 quarterfinals, and they've missed it for the very first time a couple months ago. So New Zealand is definitely not the New Zealand that they start out as. But again, they're out of the running to win this year's HSBC series, but there's still a possibility they can win the LA title. Moving on, we have South Africa. South Africa has won 4 HSBC titles themselves. They have a chance of winning the LA event and the HSBC title this year. Like I said, they start off really strong, winning the very first 4 events of the year. But then once New Zealand came back and Samoa came back and Fiji came back after COVID, they've been struggling as well. They haven't placed higher than 5th since winning the first 4. So again, even though they have the least amount of things that have to fall their way to win the entire HSBC series this year, they're not, again, South Africa is not the same team as South Africa of old. Gone are guys like Seabela Senatla, Cecil Africa, and Makazole Mapimpi. They're all gone. But at the same time, they still have some great players. I highly recommend watch out for Angelo Davids, the blonde-haired JC Pretorius, Zane Davids, a huge dude, moves really quick. And then, of course, their captain, Siviwe Soizwapi, who is just, God, that guy is just amazing as well. Highly recommend checking out those players. South Africa, again, may not be the South Africa of old, but still a team that's going to be tough for USA to face. And then, of course, you have our rivals to the north, Canada. Again, another team that has struggled with a lot of turnover. Gone are some of their greatest players. Nathan Hirayama, who is right now still for all-time HSBC players, has scored the 3rd most points of all time of all HSBC Rugby Sevens players with 1,859 points over his career. He just recently retired. Harry Jones is no longer with them, neither is Justin Douglas. So this is definitely a Canada that is also rebuilding as well. They have some great young players like Andrew Coe, Thomas Isherwood, who I highly recommend. If you'll notice him if he still has the mullet, he has a pretty trendy mullet. And then Brock Webster, whose name may sound familiar. He plays for the Toronto Arrows in MLR. So definitely check out for Team Canada. I feel Canada may be the weaker team of this series, but they can give any of these teams, again, a run for their money, including the USA. And then, let's focus on Team USA. So, again, Team USA, just like every other team, is not the same Team USA of the last couple of years. They have dealt with a lot of turnover. They have lost a lot of their veteran players. No longer do they have Captain Madison Hughes, who just recently retired, who also has the most points scored of all U.S. players, 1,510. He is 6th of all time in all of HSBC Rugby. We don't have Martin Iosefa, who is now a Seattle Seawolves, Danny Barrett, who moved on to MLR to play for the Houston SaberCats, and then Carlin Isles, who right now has the 2nd most tries scored by an American player, 217. Fast player. Don't know what his status is, but unfortunately he has not played for the Sevens team at all this year. Ben Pinkelman, another great Sevens player, he quietly retired, is now the assistant head coach to the team. And then, unfortunately, just announced by head coach Mike Friday, team captain Kevon Williams, who was 4th in USA Rugby Sevens with 33 tries scored for this HSBC 7 series. Unfortunately, Kevon Williams is not going to be playing because of injury, so that's a huge blow for Team USA to lose such an inspirational leader like Kevon Williams. But, let's look at the team that we have now. It's still a very capable team. I mean, you got a good mix of veterans and younger players who, from what I've seen so far of this year and of last year and the Olympics that we recently had, a lot of these young players have a lot of potential to become future superstars on the Sevens circuit. We start with number 1, Aaron Cummings. Number 2, Gavin Diamore. Number 3, David Still. He was a crossover player from the Colorado Exos team. Basically, that's a program in USA Rugby where they were searching for players of other sports like football, wrestling, basketball, who they decided to try to recruit to play rugby and show them that they can play rugby because they have the athletic abilities. David Still is one of those products from the Exos, and he's amazing. Really, really great player, young, talented player. Number 4, Maceo Brown. Number 5, Joe Schrader from UCLA. Great player. Love this kid. He's got a lot of potential if he sticks with it. The announcement that Mako Nufe has returned to Sevens. He hasn't played since 2020. He has 43 caps under his hat, which, again, this young team will need a lot of that veteran experience. Of course, he has also been playing with the Houston SaberCats recently. And then at number 7, you have Fola Niua, who has the most caps on this team right now at 75, and he has the most matches played. Caps means events. Match is the actual match in itself. So you can play maybe 8, you're going to play about 6 matches per event. So Fola Niua has the most matches played of all USA Rugby Sevens players at 383. No player has played as many matches as Niua, and that's not even close. Like, the next person in line, I think, has only 200 something. So he is well above everybody else. So that experience, and he recently came back from a little hiatus, so it's great to see Niua back. They'll need his veteran leadership on this team. Malachi Esdale at number 8. Number 9, the captain, replacing Kevon Williams. Stephen Thomason, another well-experienced Sevens player, 43 caps. You may recognize him from his time playing for the new Premier Sevens League here in the United States, captaining the Loonies. He has the 4th most points in all of American players at 834. 3rd most points in this series with 218. Then you have a young, talented guy, Naima Falau, who a lot of people are considering to be the successor to Niua. So that's a kid that you're going to have to watch out for. And of course, number 11 on the field, but number 1 in our hearts, Perry Baker, the fastest man, arguably the fastest man on the rugby pitch. He is honestly the reason why I fell in love with rugby, because when I started getting into rugby sevens, Perry Baker started his sevens career, and I mean, from get-go, he is a try-scoring machine. I mean, he has the most tries scored by an American player with 226 tries. I was very fortunate to watch him score his 200th try 2 years ago at the Rugby LA event in 2020. 2020. Very fortunate to watch that event, to have him score his 200th try. He now has 226 tries, so again, he's the most tries scored in America. 2nd most points scored for an American player at 1,132. His tries makes him the 5th most tries scored by any player at all time in HSBC history. He's actually only 4 tries behind the 2 players tied at number 4 from South Africa, Seabelo Senatla, and then the Argentinian head coach, actually, Santiago Gomez Cora. He's now the head coach of the Argentinian team currently. Both of them have 230 tries. It's very quite possible you might watch history be made at the LA event. If Perry Baker could score 5 tries, he will move into the number 4 all-time try scorer in HSBC history, which would be amazing. And then we have Lucas Lecamp, a future superstar. If you've watched him, he has come through from the Giltinis Academy, UCLA Rugby. Guy is amazing. He is a future Rugby Sevens Eagle star. And another guy, Cody Melfi, who started playing Rugby Sevens a few years back, spent some time enlisted in the Army, has come back, spent a little time playing for the San Diego Legion as well. It's good to see Cody Melfi back with USA Rugby. I found my note for Dan Norton. Dan Norton has scored 358 tries. Again, you look at a guy like Perry Baker who has 226, and that's 5th of all time. Dan Norton, 358. I would love to say that Perry Baker has a chance of breaking Dan Norton's record, but that's going to be a lot of tries. We'll see if that happens. So that's our USA Eagles Sevens team, a great team, but again, they've been struggling with a little bit of inconsistency lately. I want to say that they have a shot. Their first tournament win ever in HSBC history was LA back when they were playing in Vegas. So, it'd be nice if USA can win the US stop for the HSBC World Rugby's tournament. But it's going to be a tall order. Again, they have very strong, very stiff competition in Pool B between South Africa, New Zealand, and Canada. Top 2 teams move on to the final 8. So USA has to really bring their A game for that event. So that is everything in a nutshell. I know this was a long video, but I told you guys we got a lot to go over. And again, so much fun. I can't stress how much fun Rugby Sevens is, and the HSBC World Rugby Organization puts on a great show. Again, if you don't have the ability to buy tickets, check it out on the Peacock Network. Absolutely, well, if you have the Peacock Network, you pay for that, you can watch it. I guarantee you, watch a couple of matches, and they're very short, 20 minutes at most. Spend an hour, watch 3 matches, and I guarantee you'll be hooked. Again, starts Saturday, August 27th, 9:20 a.m. kickoff time. First game is South Africa versus USA. So again, if you want to watch Team USA, you got to watch it from the very start. 9:20 a.m. Saturday morning Pacific Standard Time. If you have tickets, you got to get there at the beginning. Don't come late because you'll miss USA versus South Africa, which will be a great, great match. And then moving on, Sunday, August 28th, 8:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Shout out to my man Dallin Stanford. He is going to, of course, be on commentary for the event. Great guy. And yeah, that's the HSB World Rugby Sevens. Again, this is also great because this is the last stop of the series. A nice little precursor to the World Rugby Sevens World Cup that's going to be taking place in South Africa in just a couple weeks after this. So again, lots of rugby coming up in the next couple of weeks and next couple of months. I know it's been a little quiet, but the summer is now over. We're going back into rugby mode. I'm so excited. Again, root for Team USA, guys. Great to show the support. We're going to be hosting a World Cup soon. And we just need to show all the support, the growth of our rugby players, both in sevens and on the 15s. And this is going to be so much fun. If you're able to get there live, I will be there. So if you see me, don't be afraid to say hi. I'm going to be front row center. I'm literally going to be front row center for the whole entire event, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure if you do attend the event, hydrate. It's going to be warm, and have fun, guys. Have lots of fun. So, once again, HSBC World Rugby Sevens event, Saturday, Sunday, 27th, 28th, Peacock Network, or be there live. I will be. Hope you enjoyed the video. Sorry it was a little long, but it's so much fun. And I'll see you guys on the pitch.